And we're live on Narrative, bringing you the latest breaking news. I'm turning my lights on as well and saying good evening to you because we're back with breaking news. We apologize for the sound earlier on. We had some difficulty with what was getting the technical setup going, but there is amazing breaking news tonight as we can report to you that in the Senate, the Senate has now approved the Jeffrey Epstein Files Act, the Transparency Act, which means the act is now passed. It is now law. It's now up to the President of the United States to sign it because that is what the people of the United States have asked him to do. Earlier, the House voted 427 to 1 to force the Justice Department to release its entire archive of the Epstein files. Now, we're talking about everything from investigations that they have themselves been doing into Epstein and his entire network, plus flight logs, immunity deals. These are anyone who was given, got off during those plea deals, any NDAs that were signed, any people who were told to keep quiet. Internal communications from all the significant players will be released. This includes Jeffrey Epstein's communications, as we've seen some of them released already, but everybody else around him or his entire staff. He had a team of enablers. He had a team of other people involved in money deals, in transactions that involved arms and so many other operations around the world. So those will be coming out as well. And also, this is crucially important. What happened during his death in federal custody, as you all know, he's assumed to have been to have committed suicide, or at least that's the official record. But many people suspect that that is not what happened, that he was killed inside federal custody. So we will also get from the FBI all the files related to his death in federal custody. There was one vote against in the House, Louisiana Republican Clay Higgins. There was one vote against in the Senate in Tommy Tuberville. And so now we know that people in the South may want to choose a new senator and a new House representative because the truth is coming out, and they are the lone voices, or among the lone voices, to reject the release of the Epstein files. Now, we're not sure about the timing of all of this. It seems very unlikely that the president can do anything right now to really stop the will of the people, although he will try. They have initiated investigations inside the Department of Justice against a number of Democrats. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has approved that. If those are ongoing, and they are ongoing, or at least they've started, they might use that as an excuse to not reveal the evidence. But of course, it's a complete cover-up what's going on. If that's the case, it seems to us that they will have to release these files. Now, the president has said, we have nothing to hide. He said this publicly. He also said that everyone should release the files as early as yesterday. Of course, the big question, if there's nothing to hide, why has there been so much resistance from the White House over the last few months to the release of these files? So now that the bill is past the Senate, it's past the House, it will go into the president's office, the Oval Office, and it'll demand a signature. Hopefully, we'll see a signature as early as tonight or tomorrow. And if it is released, who knows how quickly we will get all that evidence. It's 300 gigabytes of evidence that is expected. That obviously includes a lot of video. You just don't get to that kind of scale in terms of data. So there'll be video, there'll be photographs, and there will be lots of documents and correspondence. But what I'm most intrigued about is the investigations themselves. We'll be getting to see what the FBI knew, what they had on Jeffrey Epstein, on Ghislaine Maxwell, on everybody involved in this giant scheme, which could extend to many, many people who are very well-known, influential people in the world of business, in the world of politics, in the world of media. There's a lot of people who went through Jeffrey Epstein's townhome. There's a lot of people who did deals with Jeffrey Epstein, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of deals with Jeffrey Epstein, who will be thinking a lot tonight about whether they should call lawyers, amongst other things, and about whether it's time to confess to all the things that they did, because there is, pretty likely a huge conspiracy involving organized criminality on many levels, going back as many as 40 or 50 years. As we've been reporting in The Greatest Heist, there is a track record here of this particular network that involved Jeffrey Epstein that goes back all the way to the mid-'80s in terms of a criminal effort. And most of those financial crimes have happened in the stock markets, have happened in the financial markets. These are things that have not had a lot of attention up until now. But with these FBI files coming out, we're hoping to learn a lot more about what Jeffrey Epstein and his network were involved in doing, from the SNL crisis, the crash in 1987, all the way through to our current financial crisis, or it's the predicament we're in as Donald Trump tries to introduce all these tariffs and bets on cryptocurrency against the US dollar. All these things, believe it or not, are combined and connected. There'll be a lot of very wealthy, very rich men, mostly around the world, but also in the United States here, who are going to be thinking very carefully about what their futures might hold. Many people might be forced out of positions. We've already seen Larry Summers, the former Treasurer, sorry, uh, Treasury Secretary, I should say, who was the former the president of Harvard University, empty out his office at Harvard today because of the allegations of his asking Jeffrey Epstein for advice on his dating life, amongst other things. And that's just the stuff that came out from the estate. That's the emails that came out from the estates. But those same emails also revealed to us that Trump was potentially involved in criminal activity when he bought the 2004 purchase of the Maison Les Amitiés, the house in Palm Beach that used to be owned by Wexner. That house he bought for $41 million and then turned around and sold it for $95 million. That $54 million markup that he achieved is under great question tonight, because we know that it came from a Russian oligarch, that it was Russian money laundering from Dmitry Rabobliev. And so the fact that it went into Trump's account is one thing. That is Russian money laundering. The next question that comes from that is, was there a tax evasion involved with that? Like, did he actually submit that $54 million as a capital gains tax in 2008 when he sold that property? The answer is likely no, because we know this about about Donald Trump's tax evasion in the past. But to see Jeffrey Epstein commenting about that in the way he did in the emails that were released just last week, there has to have been an investigation that was going on in the FBI. Something must have been triggered in the FBI to investigate that sale, because it was a very unusual sale. On top of that, we've now found out that Mark Pulte, the father of Bill Pulte, the housing czar, as he's termed, was involved in that same deal. So we've got an even larger network, someone in government right now who might have been involved with the Russian money laundering that Donald Trump did in 2004 and 2008. There's the Katie Johnson case. We might learn a lot more about that. We might learn a lot more about 1,000 cases. People have come forward to the FBI and to officials over the years, demanding justice and investigation into what he has done. Jeffrey Epstein did with his network of other business people and otherwise, with these underage girls, with these teenage girls, in their sexual trafficking to various people around the world. We're going to learn a lot of the answers the survivors have been asking for. The survivors who appeared this morning on the steps of Capitol Hill demanding justice, well, they're about to get that justice. And with it, we're all about to learn a whole lot of truth about the history of the United States over the last 50 years and the history of this particular American president, his involvement in organized crime, his involvement in a human trafficking network, potentially, his involvement in financial crimes. It seems very difficult for this president to walk away from all this discovery that we're about to get when the FBI releases these Epstein files in the coming days. And hopefully we will get to see them. Hopefully he won't try one of his things to try and stop it. He will try, of course. But this may be the darkest day yet in President Trump's presidency, and there have been many dark ones up to now. It doesn't seem to me like he can get away without these files being released. And if they are released, there's a lot of damaging material likely in them. I've been looking at the story for really 8 years now, but 6 years very directly after Jeffrey Epstein passed away 6 years ago. We're not sure whether he was killed or whether he committed suicide, but I've been squarely investigating the financial crimes and the crimes of his network for 6 years. And I can tell you from my perspective, there is a lot here that is not only questionable, that is highly criminal. And in fact, may have hurt the American taxpayer to the tune of $80 trillion in the last 40 years. That's $80 trillion. And you may wonder why you're not living in the house you wanted to live in, that you knew you could afford 20 years ago, but then suddenly couldn't. You may wonder why your kids couldn't go to the college that they wanted to, or the university they wanted to, because you didn't have the funds anymore. You may wonder why it's so hard to find work right now. You may wonder why it's so expensive to buy grocery every month. And a lot of those answers come down to a lot of money has been extracted out of the American economy for the last 50 years. And a lot of that was done by a network very closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein and with Donald Trump. And there'll be a lot of people who are involved in that, a lot of people with a lot of questions that they will have to answer, as this investigation has really changed the trajectory of American history. The decision tonight by the Senate and the House to pass this legislation to force the release of the FBI files, it will have a dramatic consequence on the future of America. It may, in fact, save democracy itself, because these files are going to reveal a lot about who Jeffrey Epstein was, about who his network was and still is, and about the people around the world that have benefited from it. People who are currently world leaders, people like Vladimir Putin, people like Xi Jinping, people like the guy who was in the White House today, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. All those people have benefited from the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein helped shape, and we will find those out. But of course, our primary concern tonight remains with the survivors of these horrible crimes, because these are people who have lost decades of their lives. Of, talking to Maria Farmer earlier on, she lost 30 years of her life. And Maria is having a birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday, Maria. At 56 years old, she is finally getting the best birthday gift I can imagine she would ever want. Finally, she's getting the answers, the justice that her younger sister, Annie, you may have heard her on the floor, on the steps of Congress today, steps of Capitol Hill today, I should say. These two girls and these women now, of course, suffered so much and have worked so hard to fight justice over 5 different presidential administrations. They have fought for the release of these documents. And, this is really Maria's day. She obviously accredits Virginia Giuffre as well. But, Maria was the first person to go to police in 1996 and gave the police everything they needed to know about what was going on in real time. They knew exactly what was going on. They chose to do nothing. They came back to her 10 years later in 2006. And again, she gave them everything. And again, they did not deliver justice. And so on it went, and on it went through various presidential administrations. And at each juncture, whether it's Bill Clinton or Barack Obama or George Bush or Donald Trump, justice has not been delivered to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And we may now see it happen for Maria, for Annie, but also for the countless of other victims that have been part of this sexual abuse ring and this human trafficking ring. We hope to bring justice. Hope this brings justice to them now, as they all deserve it. That is our breaking news coverage tonight. I thought I had to jump in and just give you the latest on the Senate there, because the headline really is 96-1. 96-4, I think, actually, I should say. Maybe there was 2 abstentions there. Let me double check that figure for you. Yeah, 96-1. So the only one is Tommy Tuberville, of course, who voted no. That means 3 people abstained, if I'm adding my math correctly. And in the House, 427-1. Pretty unanimous there. The people of the United States want the Epstein files out. The House and the Senate have voted for the Epstein files to be released. And the president has signaled that he will sign this bill. If he gets it, he is now getting it. Let's hope he lives up to his word this time and absolutely releases the Epstein files, and the Department of Justice follows through and releases the full and complete Epstein files without any redactions, without anything taken out, without any removals from references to Donald Trump. It is high time we got full justice in this case for Jeffrey Epstein. That's the breaking news. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock with an update on 5 Stack.